Tom Aspinall versus Surreal Gone. Are you ready for the interim championship? According to a remarkably good source, Jon Jones is going to be afforded the ability to wait 180 days, which is equivalent to 6 months, which is what he asked for. Tom Aspinall is going to fight with Surreal Gone. And now we're going to defend an interim champion with the existence of an undisputed champion, which is against the laws of logic.
Aspinall versus Francis, who wins?
Oh, that's a good fight. That's a great fight. Always been a big fan of Francis. Love his story, love what he's all about. I think it's a 50-50 fight, to be honest. Francis is a scary man. But I think technically I would take the edge, but I think that's a great fight.
The heavyweight division is still up in the air, but there are rumors that Jon Jones has turned down a fight with Tom Aspinall. Tom no longer wants to fight Jon Jones. He now wants to fight Francis Ngannou.
Any guys at the UFC, I'll fight anyone, I'll fight anytime, and I'll fight anywhere. Never turn down a fight in my life. Never will. The day that I start thinking about turning down fight.
Michael Bisping, a former fighter and UFC commentator, had a strong response to Jon Jones's comments. Jones said he hasn't trained since his last fight and is still making money just by having the title while Tom Aspinall stays interim champion. Bisping called it out for what it is, an unnecessary power move that shows disrespect for the other heavyweights. He was shocked that Jon would brag in public about not doing anything while making more money from Tom's rise than Tom himself.
Let's start with Jon Jones. He got on Twitter and he was tweeting up a storm. Here's what he had to say regarding everyone saying that he's ducking Tom Aspinall and stuff like that. He said, I spoke to the UFC a long time ago about what my future plans are. I haven't really worked out since my last fight in New York City. Honestly, I believe it's in the UFC's best interest to keep presenting me as the company's champion, not Tom. And then he goes on to say, I've just been playing the role of the company man by doing nothing at all and holding all the position. And truthfully, it's been incredibly lucrative. I've made more money off of Tom being the interim champ than Tom has himself.
According to Bisping, this was not the behavior of a real champion. Rather, it was a premeditated move to stall the division and capitalize on the spotlight. He asked the UFC how long they could hold on to the heavyweight title while real rivals had to wait. Jon may be acting like a company man, but Bisping made it clear that it is time for the company to start caring about the fans, the fighters, and the future.
He continued tweeting. He was talking about Tom, saying Tom's basically not that special because he's got 3 losses on his record, 2 of which were before the UFC. And you know, to be fair, that's a fair point, right? Not everyone goes through a career in mixed martial arts where they just dominate everybody. And that is what Jon Jones has done, apart from maybe, say, Dominic Reyes, his last fight at 205. Okay, a lot of people thought he lost, maybe against Thiago Santos as well. But still, he was getting a little bit tired and a little bit complacent at light heavyweight.
Furthermore, Michael Bisping scolded Jon Jones for avoiding Tom Aspinall. He stated that as champion, Jon had the duty to defend or vacate. He ignored Jon's criticism of Tom's early losses, pointing out that many great fighters experience setbacks before becoming stronger. Bisping lauded Tom's development into a top heavyweight and suggested that Jon's flawless record may have made him comfortable. In short, Bisping made it clear that Tom had earned his shot, and Jon needed to quit hiding behind his heritage.
No, not everyone can do that. But just because you lose 2 fights early in your career doesn't mean that you can't learn, improve, get better, go on and become one of the best heavyweights the sport's ever seen, which is exactly what Tom Aspinall has. Yes, he was beaten twice on his way to the UFC. So what? No big deal. Look at other great fighters. Look at Jack Della Maddalena. He lost his first 2 ever fights. Then the man went on an absolute tear. Merab Dvalishvili, main event of tomorrow. He lost his first couple of fights in the UFC, okay? People do that all the time. You learn from it, you grow from it, you improve. And maybe that's Jon's point. I didn't need to do that. I'm different. I'm cut from a different cloth, okay? And maybe that's true. But the fight that needs to happen is against Jon Jones, unless the announcement is that he's retired.
But the thing that worries Jon Jones is that he is getting out of shape. Yes, he is not trained in some months. Furthermore, Michael Bisping questioned Jon Jones' commitment and voiced concern that the champion has not trained since November. While he admired John's legacy and years of domination, true champions stay fit, especially if they plan to fight again. He hinted that John might be about to retire, and that the big news would come thereafter. At this time, Bisping stated clearly that the bout that must take place is Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, unless John is permanently eliminated.
Okay, the fact that he says he hasn't worked out since last November, that's alarming. Whether or not you're a fighter, whether or not you're a champion, you want to be working out. Health is wealth, okay? Sure, he's been enjoying himself, he's flying around the world, he's allowed to do that, he's worked his ass off for many, many years. And Jon Jones has gone through generations of champions, okay? But you want to work out, by the way. But you want to stay in shape, you want to stay healthy, and certainly if you plan on fighting again. So maybe John's not going to come back.
Furthermore, with Jones saying that he hasn't trained since November, Bisping questioned whether the genuine news was his retirement. The UFC heavyweight division needs another mega fight. If Jon Jones is delaying the bout with Tom in order to plan another, he adds, bring on Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich for the uncontested title. Forget ranks. Bisping remarked that this is the battle they want, two absolute monsters. It's the best matchup to reshape the division.
Okay, the fact that he says he hasn't worked out since last November, that's alarming. Whether or not you're a fighter, whether or not you're a champion, you want to be working out. Health is wealth, okay? Sure, he's been enjoying himself, he's flying around the world, he's allowed to do that, he's worked his ass off for many, many years. And Jon Jones has gone through generations of champions, okay? But you want to work out, by the way. But you want to stay in shape, you want to stay healthy, and certainly if you plan on fighting again. So maybe John's not going to come back. Maybe the announcement that Tom's talking about is Jon Jones stepping away, Cyril Gane stepping in, Tom versus Cyril for the undisputed belt. Because right now in the heavyweight division, I can't think of anyone else more deserving. Yeah, okay, Volkov, he might have something to say about that.
This is #1 bullshit.
But in terms of a fan favorite kind of mouth-watering matchup, Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall, two gigantic guys, two big dudes, two agile guys, two very, very quick guys. That's a good one. That's a matchup that I would like.
On the other hand, Michael Bisping chastised Jon Jones for acting like an unbeaten great who came, saw, and won, but is now leaving everyone perplexed and frustrated about his future. Jon must either fight or relinquish the title. If he chooses to walk away, that is his choice. But at 37, saying his body is suffering when he hasn't trained since last November appears wimpy. Bisping, who is 46 years old and still working hard, thinks that real fighters grind every day for the sake of passion, health, and respect for the sport. Jon is in a difficult situation. He must make a clear choice or risk losing respect.
Now, Jon Jones went on to say that he came, he saw, he conquered. He actually put it down in Latin, which of course he has done. He's done that for many, many years, but there's always going to be the next guy, okay? And I don't get it. I don't understand it. In fact, this is all starting to get a little bit awkward for Jon Jones, for the fans, for commentators like myself, for like DC and Chael Sonnen, they're talking about it. Jon Jones is talking shit. When you're one of the biggest stars in the organization, when you're the GOAT, when you're the guy that's gone through generations of champions, and then you're being unclear with what your intentions are, I think he's got to fight or vacate the belt. If he wants to vacate, that is his right. Will there be people that say, you know what, he did his time, fair play, he's 37 years old. He said on Twitter, he said, my body's aching. I'm 37, I work out, and I'm so sore. I thought he didn't work out since last November, so how the hell is he still sore? I'm 46 and I still work out every single goddamn day. 1, because I enjoy it. 2, because I want to look after my body. And 3, because it's the best part of my goddamn day.
While UFC President Dana White thinks he can't stop Jon Jones from retiring despite the fact that the American has committed to fight Tom Aspinall, he also admits that he can't force Jon Jones to fight Tom Aspinall, even though the highly anticipated heavyweight battle appears to be on the table.
Anything that PFL or Francis could do to make that a realistic option for you guys, or are you fully focused on Aspinall?
Yeah. It's Aspinall's fight. I mean, we've been talking to this kid forever about it, and it's his fight. Listen, you can't make people fight. If Jon doesn't want to fight, you can't make him fight. We can try to make him fight. We can throw things at him that inspire him to want to fight, but we'll figure it out.
Here's where things get interesting. Dana White said that Jon Jones has orally agreed to fight Tom Aspinall, but he has yet to sign the contract. According to Dana, the deal does not guarantee the fight. He made it clear that nothing is official unless John signs the paper. Despite conversations and Jones's expressed enthusiasm, Dana reiterated that if John decides to retire rather than fight, the UFC cannot force him to do so. The situation creates uncertainty in the heavyweight division, especially while Tom Aspinall awaits a chance to unify the championship.
I don't have Ngannou on their contract, and Aspinall's the guy.
If you were put in the position, would you maybe try to get Ngannou back under contract or no?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, in your gut, do you think that fight will ultimately end up happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning, and John Jones agreed to do the fight. So John Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal. John agreed to fight Tom.
Before, like on the last answer, you said
John agreed to fight Tom, yes.
so he hasn't signed a contract or anything.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
I mean, you guys have heard me for the last however long. I said, I guarantee you this fight's going to happen. This fight's going to happen. Fight's going to happen. You guys told me the crazy shit that was going on Instagram and all these other places. But yes, I've been saying John is going to fight Tom.
White was reacting to the UFC heavyweight champion's social media behavior, which suggested he was retired, before calling out former UFC fighter Francis Ngannou, who spoke at the UFC 316 post-fight news conference. White claimed Jones, 37, had not mentioned retirement to him and was just interested in pairing him with Aspinall. YT stated that Tom Aspinall is the man. If the person wants to retire and not fight, there is nothing you can do. 2 did not want Khabib Nurmagomedov to quit. I think Daniel Cormier should have stayed in it longer, but that's none of my business. If we can, I will do everything I can to make the fight happen. If he's talking that crazy, I had no idea Ngannou was fueling rumors that he could be interested in returning to the UFC. White downplayed the odds, and even if he did face Jones, YT stated that it was Aspinall's fight, adding fuel to the flames. Michael Bisping also highlighted the possible chance of former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou returning after dominating the UFC and departing for the PFL. Ngannou may be ready to mend ties and return to the UFC, according to his coach, Eric Nick. Consider the resulting fireworks. Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou would be an absolute nightmare fight for any heavyweight.
The potential matchup for Tom Aspinall could be Francis the Predator Ngannou. That is correct. The former UFC heavyweight champion of the world who left as the champion, who went up to the PFL, fought and became the champion, fought Tyson Fury, did a really good job, almost beat him, dropped him in one of the rounds, and then got flatlined against Anthony Joshua. He is open to making a return to the UFC. That is according to his coach, Eric Nixick. He says, enough time has passed and I would love to see them mend fences, talking about Ngannou and the UFC, and get back to competing there. 100% Francis would be open to return to the UFC. I think it's more about business than it is about ego. At least it is from Francis's side. So could you imagine? That would just be a ridiculous announcement. Yes, there would be a lot of people coming out and talking about John Jones, saying that that's why he waited 3 years to go up to heavyweight. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but if he was coming back and then he was to retire, not only did he not want to fight Tom, now he doesn't want to fight Ngannou. I'm not saying that any of this is true. I'm just saying that this is what the people online was.
So, what does it all mean? John Jones ramped up the heat on Tom Aspinall by flashing all of his UFC title belts, proving that he is still the division's king by displaying his famous collection. Jones appeared to be telling everyone, especially Tom, that no matter how swift or strong Aspinall is, Jones' heritage and domination are on a completely different level. It was an obvious taunt, indicating that Jones is not ready to give up his crown without a battle. Meanwhile, Tom Aspinall made it plain that he is not ducking anyone, backed up by UFC President Dana White, who referred to him as the guy. Tom accepted the challenge, saying that he would fight anyone, anytime, anywhere, whether it was John Jones, Francis, Ngannou, or anyone else. Tom stated that he has never turned down a fight and will never do so. The moment he considers dodging an opponent, he will hang up his gloves. He simply stated, "Whoever they want me to fight, I will fight."
Aspinall's the guy. He's the guy.
Dana White says I'm his man. We love that. We love that on the channel.
And what about Francis Ngannou? You having him? You want some?
The day that I start ducking out of fights and turning opponents down and stuff like that is the day that I'm going to retire. So, as I've always said, and you can ask any promoter I've ever worked with, any guys at the UFC, I'll fight anyone, I'll fight anytime, and I'll fight anywhere. Never turn down a fight in my life. Never will. The day that I start thinking about turning down fights is the day that I'll retire. So to answer the question, whoever they want me to fight is who I'm going to fight.
In addition, MMA analyst Chael Sonnen analyzes the current circumstances surrounding Tom Aspinall's probable fight with Jon Jones. Chael stated that Tom Aspinall has a bout planned, but he cannot confirm who it is against. However, Tom did state that it is not Jon Jones, which is noteworthy. According to Chael, this means that the UFC may have moved on from attempting to make the Jon Jones versus Aspinall bout happen.
We're told by Tom Aspinall that he has a fight, that he can't say who it is, but he can say who it's not, and that it's not Jon Jones. Now, this isn't an official announcement made by the UFC, and generally if the UFC got to the spot with Jon Jones, the spot where in the office they know we're not going to make the fight, we're not even trying anymore, they move on, and in this case they would go to Surreal. And that's supposed to be like the big dark secret, that if it's not Jones versus Tom, then it's Tom versus who? The answer is Surreal. But whether that's supposed to remain a secret or not, Tom is revealing for us that that's the step that we're...
According to Chael, the only real way to pressure Jon Jones into fighting Tom Aspinall is through popular demand. That means that if fans, media, and the MMA community continue to talk about it, demand it, and show tremendous interest, Jon may feel pressured to take the fight, especially to safeguard his legacy or prove something to the public. Taking this into account, Chael explained that behind-the-scenes negotiations and UFC office talks will not be enough to force Joe into a fight he does not want. But if Jon sees that everyone is calling for him to face Tom, he may be swayed by social and legacy pressures. In the past, when the UFC hit a point where a bout could not be done, such as with Jon Jones, they would cease pushing for it and begin organizing alternative choices. Chael feels that in this case, Tom Aspinall's backup opponent is Cell Gain, and that is the huge secret that has yet to be released.
He didn't say the name Surreal, but he said we're moving on absence of Jones. If the office was to that point, I don't believe that the office would keep that quiet. I believe the office would have first come out publicly and said, Jon had demands that were crazy. We met those demands. He then refused the fight. I believe they would come out and say that, and they would let it simmer for just a minute, and they would see if public opinion and pressure could sway Jon into doing a contest that he otherwise wouldn't have.
While fans were expecting Jones, Sonnen made a strong statement about Jon Jones and the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Chael stated that if Jon Jones does not plan to fight, particularly if he is unwilling to face Tom Aspinall, he must cede or abandon the belt. Chael says it is unfair for Jon to hold up the division if he is not busy or eager to face the top contender. Furthermore, Chael thinks that a champion must either defend their title or step aside so that the rest of the division can move on. Jon is stifling opportunities for fighters like Tom Aspinall, who are ready and deserving of a title shot, by not competing and staying champion.
We're gonna have three options. Option number one, vacate. Now, they can force Jon to vacate. It's a way where you call a guy and you let him know you're going to be fired, but you give him a breather so he can turn in his resignation. This is a big deal to some fighters. Daniel Cormier was about to be stripped by Dana White. He got the word he was going to be stripped, and Daniel burst onto the Ariel Helwani show to announce that he's relinquishing the...
Meanwhile, Chael discussed the idea that Jon Jones is building up the chaos and may be going too far with his demands or expectations, and as a result, he could end up being stripped of the UFC heavyweight title. Chael isn't fully convinced yet that the UFC has officially moved on from Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, but he admits that sources and behind-the-scenes signals are starting to make him pay real attention to that possibility.
I believe on Jon Jones, number 2 here, which is the UFC could strip him. I believe on stripping Jon Jones that Jon would rather vacate. I believe that the UFC used this word. If they said, okay, Jon, but let us explain to you what this means. You saying that you won't do the fight means we have still got to get on with the belt, and you're holding it, which means we got to take the belt. And if they took the belt, that would instantly anoint Tom Aspinall to undisputed champion. Tom would not have to do his next fight, in which the one I believe he's going to do against Ciryl Gane. He would not have to do that. The first bell would not have to ring.
On the other hand, Chael Sonnen argues that, while defending the UFC heavyweight title against Tom is definitely hazardous for Jon Jones, it is still the easier and more respectable option than getting stripped by the UFC or voluntarily relinquishing the belt. According to Chael, if Jon decides to defend his championship against a dangerous opponent like as Tom Aspinall, he keeps control of his legacy and fulfills the responsibilities of a genuine champion.
Likely to vacate. He's likely to say no. I haven't been beat. I'll fight anybody. Tom's not ready. Tom's just simply not ready for me. So go get him ready. When he's ready, come see me. But I worry we can't get to this point, and so does Matt Brown. Matt Brown talked about this. He talked about it, Jon overplaying his hand. And that's what brings us down to being stripped. And if the UFC has in fact decided to move on from Tom and Jon, which is information right now I take very tongue-in-cheek. I'm not bullish that is what happened. But there is things and sources I have that's starting to force me to at least pay attention to the idea that this could be coming. Tom versus Ciryl for the undisputed title. I'm being forced to believe could be coming. And then ultimately, you've got the easiest way, guys. These are hard. These are hard.
As the UFC heavyweight class waits with bated breath, the possible fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall is one of the most interesting matches in recent memory. Whether Jon steps back into the octagon or follows a different road, one thing is certain: the stakes could not be higher. Will Jon protect his legacy against the emerging British star, or will the division move forward without him? Who do you think will win if Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall finally fight? Do you think Jon Jones will return to the octagon or retire permanently? Share your opinions in the comments. Make sure to ring the bell so you never miss out on the most recent fight breakdowns.